Rebel Saints Meditation Society, Rachael Savage here, tuning in live for our sit this morning. So welcome. I'm here in Capitol Hill, Seattle, and streaming. We have a meditation society here, Rebel Saints Meditation Society, and I'm streaming live on Against the Stream for Against the Stream Meditation Center in Venice Beach, California. So good to see everybody. And what's going on? Felt like I had an announcement for you, but anyway, we'll just get on with it. So Sunday mornings, I give talks on what's called the heart practices. So these are practices that we do to learn and develop a way to respond skillfully to what's happening, to whatever is happening in our life. And this morning I'll offer a talk and some reflections on the meditation that we're going to do, and then we'll do the meditation together. And then we'll have some time to discuss. So that's how the morning will look. So the heart practices, Brahma Viharas, as they're known in the Pali language, and they are said to be the divine abodes. So there's these attitudes that we cultivate, attitudes to respond to what's happening. And, what is happening, people? It's dukkha. It's heavy duty dukkha. What dukkha means, dukkha is, and I'm laughing, mirthfully, dukkha means pain, and dukkha means suffering. So it means both. And there's a lot of pain right now happening. You got any dukkha? I know you do. You don't have to say it, but I have dukkha. I have pain, irritation, difficulty, hassle, problems. I got issues. I got problems. And dukkha as well is the suffering about it. So I'm personally moving, and moving is dukkha. There's no doubt about it. Moving is just, it sucks, man. It really does. And my partner and I, Joseph, we love books and we love records, and boxes of books are really dukkha, man. It's like, but I can't give them up. Not giving them up. So I've been in dukkha land personally with that. And then, of course, the world is full of dukkha, the world full of difficulty, pain, heartbreak. I just feel like right now, everybody's going through it. I used to have a teacher that said, he would say, nobody's doing that well. And this was a while back before everything got even more crazy. Say, nobody's really doing that well, which means we're all suffering. So because life is difficult, because we do things to make it worse, we create our own suffering. I mean, I saw myself doing it the other day, just yesterday. It's 10:30. I haven't done it so far this morning. I've been pretty good. But yesterday, I was creating my own suffering. Of course, I do it less and less and less than I used to through the practice. I'm able to respond with more and more patience, tolerance, understanding, compassion. I'm able to do that more and more and more. Of course, life circumstances change, right? And right now, it feels like the screws are just tightening on all of us. So the skillful response to our dukkha, the pain and suffering in our life, is compassion. So that's the the task to cultivate a compassionate response to what's hard, to what's challenging. And it takes practice. It's totally doable. And so today we'll talk about how to do it. How do you care about something like having to, haul heavy boxes around and move, stuff like that, or the state of the world, or our whatever experience we're having in our body, in our mind. Your mind been giving you any dukkha lately? Worrying, fearing, planning, all the uncertainty. Has your mind been trying to figure that out? So the teaching, the encouragement is to learn to develop compassion. And this happens in stages. And so today I'll talk about the stages. And we also do the practice repeating phrases, meditative phrases, to cultivate this attitude in our mind, to make a new response slowly over time in our mind. And I'll be talking about the phrases in the book Refuge Recovery today. I think they're so great. They're not too terribly long. Sometimes the phrases can get kind of long that we repeat, but these ones are, I think, nice and short. And so the first phrase is, may I learn to care about suffering and confusion. That to me is profound in and of itself. That's quite a task, to care about suffering and confusion. And as I was saying earlier, there are times when, and as we practice, we get good at it. And in some areas of our life, we'll be able to care easily about suffering and confusion. There'll be some area that it just comes naturally, it comes easily. And so this is a good thing to pay attention to, that we already have the ability to care and understand. And right there, that's huge. You can think about if you've had some conflict with somebody. Maybe you've had an argument and you're like, fuck them, they are so wrong. And they, going over and over in your mind. And they're this and they're that, and get a good resentment going. And then maybe we have a conversation with the person about it and realize everything that we thought was wrong, it was just a delusion. Like whatever they said to us, they didn't actually mean it. They didn't mean it the way we took it. And then what happens? It just dissolves, hopefully. I know that's what happens to me. If I understand in a different way, my resentment, my anger, the pain around that will just dissolve. Oh, you didn't mean it that way? Oh, okay. Wow, I took it totally wrong, and that happens a lot. So may I learn to care about suffering and confusion. May I start to just care and give a shit about stuff. Care about other people. Care about situations in the world. Care about what's happening in my neighborhood. Care about what the state of what's happening with you, with me. I was at a talk the other night by my teacher, Noah, and he said a beautiful phrase. He said, we can learn to develop a heart that cares. And that really struck me as something I want to do. I want to learn to develop a heart that cares. And I think a lot of what's happening in the world is a call for that, for us to wake up and start caring about each other more. Start caring about people that are around us. And this is what compassion is. It's simply caring. Caring about pain rather than hating it. So normally what we do is when pain arises, when suffering happens, when we create suffering, we want to get rid of it, we want to avoid it, we have aversion for pain. And when we have aversion and hatred for our and others' pain, it just creates suffering for us. And we can reflect in our own life when maybe somebody close to us is in pain and we just feel that care. When we care about pain, it does feel better. It doesn't necessarily feel good, but it beats the suffering caused by hating it. That caring mind, actually, it's the Buddha taught that it feels good to care. That is actually our natural response, is to care. So caring and about suffering and confusion. Yes, confusion. How good are you guys at caring about confusion? How tolerant are you about confusion? This is a hard one for me. I'll admit. I care a lot more about suffering naturally or through my training than I do about confusion. I've noticed I have a lower tolerance for confusion. I have some delusion. People should know. People should educate themselves. People should understand, not be confused. Well, we live in a world that is fueled by greed, hatred, and delusion. And delusion is confusion. What I think is really interesting about this too is that the Buddha is said to have lived 2,600 years ago, and it was diluted back then too. It was confusion abounding back then. It was still confused. That was before the phones and all that, all the screens. They were still confused. So may I learn to care about suffering and confusion. And even in that phrase is this teaching that I can learn to care, and that freedom from suffering, that's the key. That's where it lies, in this willingness to learn how to care. I have, not all you guys know this, but I have two grown men sons, two adult sons. One of them is 25 and the other one's 24. And this learning to care about confusion, it just reminds me of, I have this younger son and he's making some decisions in his life that I know, oh, it's going to lead to some problems. It's going to lead to some suffering, I think. Of course, I think I know, right? I'm the mom. And he hasn't asked me for my advice. He's a grown-ass man. So I have to allow him to be confused. I have to allow him, I have to just still care about him. Of course I do. It's real easy for me to care about him. And care about him through his confusion, through sitting there watching basically a car wreck ready to happen, right? That he's going to set himself up for suffering. How much do we see this in people around us? And we want to either we want to get in there and manage and stop the mess, or we want to maybe just ignore it and, get a hold of me later after, and don't call me to bail you out. So we can, through this practice, we can let people have their own process and be confused and make mistakes and suffer about it and still love them and still care about them. And they can do that. Everybody's got to do what they got to do to learn what they have to learn. So that's as a compassionate response. All right, the next phrase. May I respond with mercy and empathy to pain. May I respond with mercy and empathy to pain. So this is pointing again to our response. And these teachings say that it's actually whether we suffer about something or not, whether it's painful or not, depends on our response. It's not depending on what's actually happening. Not whether it's painful. Things are going to be painful. I'm sorry. They just are. I wish it wasn't true, but it is. But whether I suffer or not about the pain is up to me. That's the radical teaching of the Buddha. So how can I respond in a way that doesn't make it worse? And that's mercy. So there's a kind of a way toward, or a spectrum toward compassion. So over here we hate, we have aversion, we are totally intolerant. And over here we're little beings of love and compassion, beaming out in all directions, filled with compassion. So, we think, oh, okay, compassion will make me suffer less about pain. Okay, I just want to be compassionate. And that's our wish, although we can't just make a decision and do it. We train our mind in the compassionate response. So the very beginning of it is tolerance. That's what's happening a lot in my moving. So I'm just having, like, this is super unpleasant. I'm just going to tolerate it and try not to make it worse. Tolerance. Mercy, next level, a little bit more care. It's not just kind of grinning and bearing it and not making it worse. Mercy is, I have the power to make it worse. I could make it worse right now. I'm not going to make it worse. I'm going to be with conditions as they are, as painful as they are, and refrain from making it worse. So when pain happens, physical pain, mental pain, heart pain, difficult feelings and emotions, the pain of the world, the pain of our society, the pain of the planet, climate, fires, hurricanes, all this stuff creates pain. In our practice, we're asked, the task is to be with what is. And one of the ways we can respond is with mercy. Okay, I can be with the reality that this hurts and not make it worse. empathy. May we respond with mercy and empathy to pain. So I decided to look up empathy this morning in the dictionary to see what the definition of empathy was. I think I know, of course, but I wanted to just see what the dictionary had to say. Empathy is the ability to understand and share the feelings of another. I also looked up the word because I wondered, how many of, I think people that are attracted to a Buddhist talk, of course, are probably pretty empathetic, but just in general, I don't, at least in the streets of Seattle, I feel like I don't see a lot of empathy. I don't know what it's like where you guys are, but for instance, people just walk by mentally ill homeless people that are really suffering, and they just walk by and go get their latte. To me, that seems like a lack of empathy. Now, of course, I don't know what's happening in their internal experience, but it just seems like there's a lack of care for a lot of people in society, and that people just kind of running around. They don't seem, I'm not seeing the evidence of empathy. In some ways, of course, I am. There's a lot of change happening right now, or call for change. But in my neighborhood, I'm not seeing a lot of evidence yet. And it's been this way for a long, long, long time. So, empathy. Do we see someone's pain? And are we able to understand it, have a heart of understanding and openness, a willingness to look at it and understand it? And do we have some feeling? Not like feeling pity or sorry for, but just some, I feel you. I'm going to feel this. There's one guy in particular that lives in my neighborhood. He's been on the street for years. He has like swollen legs. He has abscesses on his legs. He's mentally ill. He cannot take care of himself in a way that, he needs care. And he's usually has all his blankets around. And one day he was walking in the rain and just kind of shuffling on the street. And he was just screaming, "Why?" And I just, yeah, why? Why is he out here on the street living like this? He needs somebody to take care of him. So that's my view. And I think in that moment, I think I had empathy. I believe that's what that means. I was willing to look at it. I was willing to be with it, not turn away. So I think empathy is turning towards and letting it in, letting the pain of others in, seeing it, being with it. This is Kuan Yin. The Buddha, the emanation Buddha Kuan Yin is a female Buddha she is said to be the one who hears the cries of the world. That's what she does. She has compassion. She has empathy. She's willing to turn toward it and just look at it and be with it. And it's said that through mindfulness practice, when we're willing to turn toward what is, that if we stay long enough, that's what will naturally happen in our heart. naturally empathy will arise. If we stay with what's present, stay present with what is, naturally empathy, naturally compassion, that this is actually the true state of our heart. Underneath the greed, underneath the selfishness, underneath the aversion and anger is this sweet, loving, and strong heart. It takes some strength to be willing to be with pain. And the last phrase in the meditation we'll do this morning is a phrase that we'll repeat: may I be filled with compassion. And of course, that's the goal, and we will have moments of it as we practice and as we learn to respond in and out of our meditation. There'll be times, because sometimes that one, I'm just like, really, maybe filled with compassion. It just sounds so lofty and kind of unattainable. But actually, it's true. There are times we will be filled with compassion. There'll be moments, and then we'll have more and more moments of being able to respond with a mind that really cares, like with all of our kind of presence, maybe filled with compassion. All right, so let's practice together. Let's try this out. So we'll meditate for 30 minutes. Go ahead and find your meditation posture. You can sit on a chair or on your couch, or maybe you have a cushion. And we'll begin with the sound of the bell. And gently close your eyes. Rest your hands on your lap or your knees. And bring your awareness into your body. Just feeling the sensations of sitting. And here in the beginning, making a determination to sit with whatever arises today. Today, having a willingness not to turn away from pain, to stay with what's uncomfortable, what's difficult, what's painful. So here you can find your posture and then resolve not to move, to be still. And as the sit goes on, you'll have a desire to move. Maybe it gets uncomfortable or painful. Try to stay with it. Allow yourself to be uncomfortable today. Now, of course, if it gets super painful and you need to move, you can adjust. Try to stay a little longer than you normally would. This is what the Buddha called the sit of strong determination. Bring awareness to your breathing. As you breathe in, know that you're breathing in. As you breathe out, know that you're breathing out. I'll offer you phrases, these phrases to practice with to cultivate this caring, compassionate response. Repeating these phrases over and over in our mind like a sort of mantra or a statement of positive intention. May I learn to care about suffering and confusion. Just staying with this first phrase for now. May I learn to care about suffering and confusion. If you find yourself caught up in thinking or planning or remembering, just gently bring your attention back to the phrase and begin again. May I learn to care about suffering and confusion. Adding in or moving to the next phrase. May I respond with mercy and empathy to pain. May I respond with mercy and empathy to pain. May I respond with mercy and empathy to pain. And the final phrase, may I be filled with compassion. May I be filled with compassion. May I learn to care about suffering and confusion. May I respond with mercy and empathy to pain. May I be filled with compassion. Continue repeating these over and over until you hear the sound of the bell.